I'm so excited to be able to actually sit down and talk about one of my biggest achievements ever with everyone here. So, real quick, I'm going to be talking a lot about money and finances. So, if you're uncomfortable with talking about finances or just like uncomfortable with the idea of talking about money in general, now is the time to kind of pull away from this video because I want to go into this video kind of being excited about this accomplishment rather than having people in the comments kind of like bash on me or talk badly about this achievement that I have now accomplished. But hi, howdy, it's Bree again. If you don't know me, my pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a filmmaker based in DFW. Some of y'all may know me for another video I did in which I talked about how I was a PA on Markiplier's Iron Lung. I wanted to share some exciting news, which is I have finally paid off all of my student loans. It's something that I never thought I would be able to say out loud. This is like mind blowing to me that I was actually able to pay off my student loans based off of a job that is related to my career field pretty much straight after I got out of college. Like that is so like mind blowing to me. I paid off my student loans thanks to Mark and thanks to working on Iron Lung. Like none of this would have been possible without the help of Mark. For context, if you didn't keep up with the Iron Lung news, Mark has said in multiple interviews that he is so grateful for all of the crew that helped him make Iron Lung, that once all is said and done and there's a reputable profit from Iron Lung, he was going to issue bonuses to all of the crew. I'm someone who has hope, but until I see like evidence of something, like I don't try to like keep my hopes very high, especially in Hollywood where people can make promises all the time and then just break those promises so easily, especially if there's like no contract involved. I was like hoping for the best, but like at the same time I was like, if Mark doesn't actually issue us bonuses, like I don't want to be let down by it, right? But lo and behold, Mark actually kept up with his promise. All of the crew got 100% of their paycheck back as a bonus. I was so speechless, but the money hit and we're paying off my student loans. I guess this video is geared more towards like people who have graduated or maybe like those who are trying to go into film school or just going into like higher education in general. I kind of just wanted to talk about my experience in like student loans, school itself, and just like the idea of paying for like student loans, okay? A little bit of background on me. So in the United States, like it comes to no shock that school is so incredibly expensive. Like higher education is so costly. Cost can really just depend on like a variety of things, such as whether you're in state or out of state, if you're going into community college versus university, private versus public. And then in addition to that, it depends on like which program you go into and like how many years of schooling you'll need, as well as like, are you staying in the dorms? Are you staying off campus? Are you commuting? Like there are just so many factors that go into having to pay for school. I wanted to be transparent about my background and my finances when it came to school. And I kind of wanted to start off from the very beginning, which is senior year of high school. So real quick, I'm gonna put my stats for high school right here. I graduated high school with a 4.28 GPA, which is about 3.6 unweighted. I went to school in Texas, where I also was in the International Baccalaureate program. In addition to that, I had an SAT score of 1270 in 2018, and I was also the president of multiple school organizations such as HOSA, French National Honor Society. I was the president of my film club, amongst other things, and I was just like a very active person in my high school career. I had a couple of scholarships that totaled to about 4.5 thousand. Those scholarships came from local scholarships. So this was stuff that my independent school district had, or they came from like local organizations and stuff like that. I also took a federal subsidized loan that was about 1.5 thousand, and then I paid the rest out of pocket. I was actually very, very lucky to have parents that helped finance me. Actually, I say helped, but they financed basically all of it. I was super surprised that my family was financing like my schooling for me, like whatever my scholarships couldn't cover, because my family like didn't really have like a savings account specifically for me to go to school. Like we had a rainy day savings account in case anything had happened, or sometimes like our paychecks would go towards my grandparents' medical bills. We didn't have a trust fund or like a savings account for me to go to college. Like to be honest, like I don't think my parents really go on vacation that often. They never went on vacation that often, not unless it was like for something big, like an anniversary, or if we're doing like a 14 to 20 person beach house to Destin, Florida, or like renting like a 4-bedroom Galveston beach house for 22 people. Yeah, like a 4-person vacation with just my immediate family was pretty rare. So the fact that they were able to finance my schooling is just so like commendable. I just know that I am truly like so very grateful that my parents were able to pay college for me. Honestly, like part of that is also due to the hard work that I also put in order to get all these scholarships, right? Thank you to my parents for helping me out with that. And like that's how I was able to afford college in the first place. Going more into like talking about my actual schooling. So I went to an in-state school called the University of Texas at Arlington, where I studied film and video productions, which is also known as cinematic arts. But unfortunately, if you were ever thinking about going to the same school as I was, for my major, I think spring of 2026 is actually the last semester where they ever are offering this major. So good luck with that. Very, very sorry. Okay, this is where I need the timeline, or else I'm gonna get jumbled. I went into my freshman year of UTA in the August of 2019. I lived on campus up until the spring of 2020. So I lived in Vandergrift Hall, which I think is like the second most expensive dorm. I had the cheapest meal plan. I lived on campus until spring of 2020, which is when the global pandemic hit. Even though I was super sad to leave all my friends that I made and I wasn't able to experience like my entire freshman year, I knew that I would be like returning to campus like eventually. Honestly, the silver lining to this was I was actually like super happy to move back home and save money. So when I moved out of my dorm, they actually gave us a full refund for all the months that we would no longer be living in the dorm. I got like a couple thousand back from that, and I was like so like thankful, because if they made us like pay the rest of it, I like don't know what I would have done. Oh, and I also forgot, this is how much it costs to be an in-state undergrad at UTA. And granted, these are the numbers for 2026, but looking at tuition, undergrad in-state tuition is about $12,000. And that's not including books and supplies, housing and meals, transportation, and then miscellaneous items. So in total, they anticipate that going to school at UTA as an undergraduate in-state student is going to be about $31,000, give or take. Some of this applied to me, some of these don't apply to me, but generally I think we were looking at around like 22,000 for when I went to school. Sophomore year was pretty much all online, but we still had to pay the full tuition for whatever reason, which didn't make any sense, but you know, like I wasn't paying for transportation or like housing and meals or anything, so I saved a shit ton of money. Like, of course, like I lived at home, but like I did have to go on campus for a couple classes here and there, such as like my glassblowing class, which is an elective that I needed for my art degree. I had a BFA, which is a Bachelor of Fine Arts, so we needed a couple of like hands-on art classes in addition to like our like specific classes for our major, of course. Took glassblowing, took a couple of cinematography like demos. So during my sophomore year, the United States CARES Act was actually in place. With the CARES Act, it basically meant that if you had any loans, you would have a 0% interest on them. That basically meant that all of the loans that I had from my freshman year of college no longer had any interest on it. Basically, like my student loans just sat there. They didn't accrue any interest. And then in addition to that, a bunch of universities, including UT Arlington, also gave tuition assistance for any students that were like struggling throughout the pandemic. And so you filled out a form and you basically said, this is what I need financial assistance on. And they would give you like a set amount to assist you with like anything that like you may have like needed it for. Got $4,000, I think, from that. And then in addition to that, I had more scholarships for keeping up good grades. And then I had applied to a couple of scholarships. During sophomore year, I was only paying tuition. Like, I didn't need any books. I didn't have housing or transportation really, like, except for like my gas. Basically, like, I didn't have to pay a lot for sophomore year at all. And I think I ended up only having to pay like 4,000 for the whole academic year, like out of pocket. And even then, my parents financed that. I had my whole sophomore year like paid off essentially. I don't know if it's necessarily like me getting lucky as opposed to like things worked out. Junior year, I was actually back on campus because I opened it back up. The CARES Relief Act was actually still in place. So UTA was still giving us money to cover for living costs, especially for students who couldn't afford to go to work and school at the same time. And then my parents also just like paid out of pocket for me. So basically same situation except a little bit more expensive just because I was like living on campus and actually had to go like back to school on campus. My scholarships were a little bit smaller than the year before just because like I don't think I got a ton of great scholarships. All I got were like merit scholarships, I think, at that time. Still super duper lucky that I didn't have to pay a ton of money still. I think that year I think we paid like $7,000. I think it might have been like $3,500 per semester that we had to pay out of pocket, and then I had to also pay rent on my off-campus apartment. My senior year of college was actually the final year of the CARES Act. I was only in college for about 3.5 years because I never did 2 semesters for senior year. I only took 1 semester because I wanted to get the hell out of college. I had my student loans in the back of my mind and I was like, I don't want to pay any more than I have to. And also, I know that I am more than capable of finishing college and getting the hell out of there. For senior year, I lived in an off-campus apartment and I was still going to school on campus. This is the only time that I actually had to pay for everything all on my own. My parents didn't pay for my tuition this year. I still had a couple of merit scholarships, and then I didn't really have to like buy any books or anything. So tuition was still like pretty much on like the low end, but I still had to pay for my tuition on my own as well as for rent. Even though the CARES Act was no longer in place, UTA was actually still giving us financial assistance. So from sophomore, junior, and senior year, like we still had the like $4,000 per semester if you remember to like apply for that financial aid. That last year, I took a loan out, which I think totaled to $1,500. I think that's pretty much like all my finances for my college career. So like if you look at the numbers, like at the end of the day, like I didn't really have to pay a ton to go to college. But however, you also have to consider like I am in a degree that's relatively less expensive. That doesn't require as many materials that I had to buy. And then I also had the whole global pandemic hit. There was a silver lining to that to where I didn't have to pay as much as I thought I would have to. Even though my tuition is much less than what a lot of other people have to pay, the idea of having student loans accrue interest still scared the hell out of me. And so when I graduated, I immediately got into working. I got super lucky with all the gigs that I got, but like, you know, sometimes when you're living and working as a freelance filmmaker, you don't really make a livable wage most days. So I was still working like part-time jobs as well as like doing like freelance filmmaking, trying to make ends meet. Markiplier was kind of like my big steady job for a couple months. And then after a period of time, I was like, okay, I need to like actually lock in and start paying off these student loans, which, you know, like once you're put in that position post-grad with no actual like career prospects and just getting lucky on gigs all the time, like, and even then like the gigs sometimes aren't super consistent, like you just pretty much have to like go out and find them. It feels super unstable because you don't know when or where your next paycheck is coming from. And even today, like in the big year of 2026, like I still feel that way sometimes. I'm like, I don't know when or where my next paychecks in the film and video industry are coming from. Like I still work a part-time job, but I also have like a full career that I am trying to devote myself to. And some people just say to take the leap of faith and to go straight into it. But sometimes like it's really hard to do so when like you have so much on the line. I can't tell you whether or not you should or shouldn't go into full-time freelancing, but what I can say is you know yourself best and you know your financial situation best, and I don't think you should ever let anyone shame you or pressure you into doing something that you don't want to do. I've had so many peers tell me like, Bree, you should just take the leap of faith and go into full-time like filmmaking. When in reality, like that's not really like feasible for me. There's just a lot of factors where I'm like, I don't know if I would be able to become a full-time freelance filmmaker, especially because every single time I'm looking for a gig, I am looking for a gig as either a production coordinator or a first AD, and those logistic based roles are already filled and they have someone else in mind already. A lot of people don't see like the value of having a first AD, or they already have someone involved. So sometimes that's like really hard for me to get a gig as a first AD. Maybe if I was like in a different department like art or like camera or like G&E or something like that, maybe the story would be a little bit different. And of course, like I can always like push myself to learn those skills, but it's not something that I am like really interested in when I know that I'm really good at managing logistics. There's like always going to be like a conversation for that somewhere, right? And I am trying to also be as honest as I can in case there's anyone out there that is wondering like, what is it like to graduate with a film and video production degree and then go into the workforce? A question that I also get asked a lot is, do I plan on going into grad school? And the answer to that is no. There is no more CARES Act. Tuition is so much more expensive. Genuinely, like, I don't know if I would be able to afford school if I went back to it. So I do have somewhat of a background in social media and like marketing. I have a background in like public relations as well. And then like in addition to that, like my film and video production background and my photography background really helps in getting me like potentially like marketing jobs, but I haven't like gone to school for marketing, and like I don't have like a master's in marketing or anything like that. Like, I know a master's degree is like super duper helpful in this day and age to helping you get a job, but you just go online and you are like struggling as someone looking for a full-time position or just like looking for any work in general, and you see so many people in the same boat as you. Like, I keep track of every single job application that I put out there, and then I keep track of what the status of it is, who I used as a reference. I attach the cover letter that I used for that position. Did I hear back from this position? How much are they offering? I keep track of so many applications, and like to this day, since 2025, like I've applied to 426 different jobs. And the thing is, I also don't really use an app, or I don't use anything that will just like submit things. I don't use a recruiter. Like this is me manually putting out my like application each time, because I try to tailor this cover letter each time, and then in addition to that, I try to be picky about the jobs. I know I shouldn't be picky because like work is work, but like I want to be able to do something useful with my degree. All of these applications also are including like any freelance gigs that I have to apply for as well. So like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. The job market is hard, and I don't blame anyone for not being able to find work. I don't blame anyone for being unemployed. I know there's a lot that's at stake, and I also know that I am definitely not the most qualified to be talking about this, but I guess I just wanted to have like an open and honest conversation. Like, by no means am I trying to beg for a job or beg for money. By no means am I trying to whine or like complain about the position that I'm in. I just want to be like open and honest about like where I'm at and offer some insight as to what it's like because I am still looking for work. I get work. I also work a part-time job and I also am able to live the lifestyle that I live. At the end of the day, I don't necessarily know if that's sustainable. Another piece of advice that I want to give to my freelancers out there, it's okay to be honest when you are not getting jobs. It's okay. I know I have the same bad habit where I'm not completely honest about the amount of work that I get. Sometimes I tell people like, "Oh, like I have a gig." And that just to make myself seem busy, when in reality like I'm actually super free. And I guess that's like a habit that we have built into ourselves to make ourselves seem big and important and like flashier or more successful. How is someone going to hire you if they don't know what your availability is like? If you're busy all the time, then you don't open yourself up to those opportunities. And I know I am definitely guilty of it. And to be fair, like sometimes I'm super busy and then sometimes like there are stretches of time where I am not as busy. And so just being honest with yourself and being honest with your peers is going to be how you get work rather than making yourself seem like you're unavailable all the time. It's okay to take time for yourself. It's okay to recharge. Whenever you're ready to go back in the field, make it known that you're available. Just don't be like me and don't make it seem to everyone that you're always constantly on the go and super busy. And then I guess like the last thing that I want to say is everyone has a different financial journey and everyone's journey is different. You never have to stay on the path that you chose because things are always changing. Life is always changing. The world is crazy out there and you should never have to feel ashamed or bad about where your place in life is, especially like if you are going through a career change. Like I know I have definitely thought about a career change. There are so many possibilities for you out there and you don't ever have to stick with the plan because sometimes the plan doesn't work out and then you just have to pivot. And then sometimes new things always catch your eye. And I don't know who it was out there, but I see it all over social media these days where people are saying, like, you should chase your dreams because the job market sucks so bad right now that, like, chasing your dreams is the same risk as looking for a stable job. When you're someone like me who is looking for both a stable job and chasing their dreams, things can get finicky. But don't ever let anyone bully you into thinking that it's like one or the other because you can definitely try for both. And I know I'm trying for both. My dreams and my goals are always constantly changing. I guess that's kind of the beauty of being in your 20s is like every time you wake up and you are looking at yourself in the mirror, you are a slightly different person each time. I think that's honestly so reassuring because you can always start as a new person. But thanks for listening to my ramble, and I will see y'all next time.